attendance tonight. You can grab your seats. I'm going to do a short presentation prior to public comment. I would like to say good evening to everybody. NTA, South Loop, Drake, all of our neighboring communities, Chinatown, and to everybody who came to be a part of this community meeting tonight. We have a lot to listen to, a lot to present, and we want to do it in a respectful manner tonight. We know that all voices are important, so we want to make sure that we hear them, okay, appropriately. If you would get your seats, we will begin the presentation. So this meeting is part of the reassignment boundary change for National Teachers Academy, which was proposed to the board on December 1st, following months of community engagement leading up to the announcement. You all have seen me. I am Chip Johnson, the Chief Officer for Family and Community Engagement in Education for Chicago Public Schools, and I have been part of this process since its inception here. We are here today on behalf of our acting CEO, Dr. Janice Jackson, to share some basic information and to hear from you about the specific proposal. I'd also like to introduce to some, those that are here, Alderman Pat Dowell, who's here with us tonight from the 3rd Ward, and then Alderman Patrick Thompson from the 11th Ward. We also have, and remember we're doing respect, thank you. We also have some principals here in the building that are from some of our schools. With all of our Chicago Public School and AUSL principals, please stand, please, and be recognized for your leadership. You just stand right where you are.
My man.
As I mentioned before, the purpose of this meeting is to allow CEO Jackson and the board office to hear feedback from you about the specific proposal under discussion. I will start running through a brief description tonight, and then I will give you the information on the community information, how we will conduct it. And after this, we will allow the remaining time for you, the public comment, all right? In addition, we have representatives here from the Office of Diverse Learning, Supports and Services. Shani Boone is here, Janai Boone, and Luis Rodriguez from ODLSS, Students Living in Temporary Situations, STLS program, Anshel Blackman, and then from the Talent Department, we have Tiffany Taylor that are in the room. They will be available for 30 minutes after the conclusion of the public comment to answer any questions you may have specific to their areas of expertise. Please note that these tables are not formally part of the process, and the stenographer that you see here that is taking notes and the note taker will not be present in those conversations to record any comments that are made. The community meeting will take place over the course of 2 hours from now until 8 o'clock. And our goal is to provide a brief presentation on the proposed action followed by comment. If you do not have a chance to comment, you can always provide your comments at transitions.edu. Transitions at cps.edu, and that will be on the slide presentation. You can also submit written comments at the registration desk, and the staff members at the desk will provide note cards for written comments if you have not yet received one. For additional information, please reference the transition plan regarding this school action at cps.edu/transitions, where you can find all of the information needed. In addition, meeting summaries for each community meeting will be available online, okay, within 5 days after each meeting, and you can access it at the website. So this is tonight's agenda. The introduction on logistics, the school action presentation, and then the public comment will probably begin right at 6:20. This meeting is part of a broader timeline regarding the proposed actions, and after these meetings and the hearing, we will review all input. After this, CEO Jackson will make a recommendation to the board to vote on the proposed action. Following the potential recommendation, the board will vote on whether or not to approve the proposed action at the February Board of Education meeting, okay? This is our format for tonight. We'll see that we will present a short presentation, then CPS will listen. Then the public feedback. Each participant will have 2 minutes to ask questions or provide public comments. Each participant will receive notice when there are 30 seconds left and the 2-minute mark. And if you did not have the chance to comment, as I said before, you can put your information in at the desk outside. All right. So over the past year, we have engaged various communities on this proposal and gotten critical feedback that informed adjustments to the proposal. We heard from various communities, as you see here. We heard from Drake, Haynes, Healy, NTA, South Loop Ward, community members from Armour Square, Brownsville, Bridgeport, Chinatown, and South Loop. We also heard from aldermen and state representatives. We have conducted 3 large community meetings between May and June of 2017, nearly 5 meetings with the steering committee comprised of community leaders across these groups, over 30 small group meetings with various stakeholders, and received over 900 emails at the cps.edu transitions website. From this engagement, we heard a lot of feedback from various perspectives, including those interested in high school and potential boundaries, as well as others who want to maintain NTA as an elementary school, including its strong culture and staff. We've worked to adjust our proposal in response to various points of feedback, including expanding the South Loop boundaries to incorporate all of NTA's current boundary, and releasing an initial draft boundary, and releasing the boundary for community feedback. We also wanted to take time to explain the proposal and where it stands today, and continue to gather feedback through these community meetings. So as we move into the proposal, you'll see all the proposed changes are scheduled to begin in school year 2019 and 2020. On the elementary side, this proposal involves the new state-of-the-art South Loop facility, 3-campus model at South Loop, and expanding South Loop's boundary to encompass all of NTA's current boundary over time. On the potential high school conversion, as you see on the graph, this proposal involves NTA gradually converting to a high school over time, transitioning grades pre-K3 to South Loop while allowing students in grades 4 through 8 to remain at NTA or to transfer to South Loop, and providing a guaranteed seat for all NTA students to attend the high school regardless of where they live. In the following slides, we will go through a few details of this proposal. In terms of the high school conversion timeline, this proposal involves the following changes for 2019-2020. Transitioning the pre-K program at NTA to South Loop, enrolling incoming kindergarten students at South Loop. Rising students in grades 1 through 3 will be reassigned to South Loop or have the option to transfer to another school. NTA students in grades 4 through 8 to either stay at NTA or transition to South Loop. All NTA students will have a guaranteed seat at the high school regardless of where they live. Starting in school year 2019-2020, NTA would begin a gradual conversion to a high school over time. As you can see below, NTA would contain students in grades 4 through 9 in school year 2019-2020. In subsequent years, NTA would gradually phase in high school grades while phasing out the elementary school grades. So by school year 2022-23, NTA would contain students in grades 7 through 12, and in school year 2024 through 25 and beyond, NTA would only contain the high school grades 9 through 12. We will ensure that high school and elementary school grade transitions will be managed with the appropriate safety and security considerations. In terms of the transition for specific NTA students, starting in 2019-2020, the pre-K program at NTA will be located at South Loop. For students in the neighborhood program, rising kindergarten students living in the current boundaries of NTA will be zoned to South Loop. NTA will not offer a kindergarten option. Rising 1st through 3rd grade students at NTA will be reassigned to South Loop regardless of where they live. They will also have the option to transfer to other elementary schools. Staff will be available from the Office of Access and Enrollment. They will help students and families if they wish to explore other options. Rising 4th through 8th grade students can stay at NTA through graduation or transfer to South Loop's neighborhood track. They can also decide to transfer to South Loop in subsequent school years. For students in the Regional Gifted Program, the RGC program for kindergarten through 3rd grade will be located at South Loop. In subsequent years, the RGC program will phase in grades at South Loop. Rising NTA RGC students will be reassigned to the RGC program at South Loop. They will also have the option to transfer to other elementary schools. Also, staff from the Office of Access and Enrollment will help students and families if they wish to explore other options as well. The RGC programs for grades 4 through 8 will remain at NTA and phase out over time. They would also have the option to transfer in to South Loop neighborhood track in 2019-20 and in future years. In terms of how the elementary school boundary will change, South Loop's boundary will expand to include all of NTA's current boundary over time. This boundary change over time is in sequence with the transition of elementary school students and the phase out of elementary school grades at NTA. So, for example, in school year 2019-2020, kindergarten through third grade at NTA transitions to South Loop, and likewise the boundary for kindergarten through third grade students in NTA's current boundary will be South Loop. NTA will offer grades 4 through 8, so the boundaries for students in grades 4 through 8's NTA's current boundary will still be NTA. All students residing in this boundary in grades 4 through 8 will also have the option to attend South Loop Elementary School. We recognize that this change will be difficult for some families and students. We engaged both NTA and South Loop parents in developing this transition plan, including multiple steering committee meetings. Ultimately, we developed a draft plan that budgets $3.5 million to support that transition of NTA students to South Loop and the coming together of these two school communities. So some of the key transitions that we included were the budget for a variety of events and activities designed to support community building and culture integration, starting the year prior to any proposed actions. Another one was creation of a joint culture and climate team comprised of staff, parents, and student representatives from both NTA and South Loop. Then the principal and school-based transition coordinators to assist with implementation of new programs and practices at each school. We will also provide logistical support, examples for recording transfers and the like, and then other supports identified by both schools' leaderships. Implementation of restorative practices, professional development and training opportunities for all school staff, and transportation for transitioning NTA students to commute to South Loop Elementary School. In addition, as part of this proposal, all NTA students as of 2018-19, regardless of where they live, will have a guaranteed seat at the high school as they matriculate from the elementary school to the high school. Following months of asks from community members, we wanted to release a draft boundary to gather feedback on the proposal. To develop this draft, we gathered input from community leaders in the Near South area, incorporating all affected stakeholders. Conversations with the Near South Steering Committee were an integral component. Ultimately, based on these discussions, we released draft boundaries that incorporate both a neighborhood as well as a preference boundary, which I will explain later. As you can see in the map, the proposed neighborhood boundary incorporates the current elementary school boundaries of the following schools: Drake, Haynes, Healy, NTA, South Loop, and J. Ward. The proposed preference boundary incorporates the current elementary school boundaries of both Armour and Holden and Pershing. The addition of the preference boundary allows us to expand quality high school options and opportunities for students in nearby communities and help foster the diversity in the school. In terms of what each boundary means for parents and students, I will explain. The neighborhood boundary gives students living in the boundary a guaranteed seat at the school. Many high school students choose to attend schools other than their neighborhood school. Across the district, approximately 22% of high school students attend their neighborhood school. The preference boundary gives preference to students living in the boundary over other students in the city, based on the number of available seats. If too few students from the preference boundary want to attend, then the remaining seats would go to students from the rest of the city. If too many students from the preference boundary want to attend, then CPS would conduct a lottery for the remaining seats. We do not anticipate a lottery based on current enrollment projections, which we will review here on the next slide. There are 2,037 high school age students living in the boundary area, including both neighborhood and preference boundaries. These students would make up one of the most diverse high school communities in the city, with 27% of African Americans attending, 19% Hispanic, 41% Asian, and 74 low-income students. The estimated capacity of the high school is between 1,000 and 1,200 students, depending on the final space configuration if the proposal is to move forward. Based upon school preference among current students in the area and enrollment patterns at other highly sought-after neighborhood schools, projected enrollment among students living in the neighborhood boundary is not expected to exceed 50%. Based on current enrollment projections, this would allow all students in both the neighborhood and preference boundary to attend the school. This projection has been based on an analysis of highly sought-after schools with neighborhood boundaries, such as Lincoln Park High School, which draws only 46% of students living in its boundary. In addition, 60% of the current high school students who live in the draft boundary area already attend a selective enrollment or a level 1+ high school. That's the presentation. Moving into public comment. Before we get started with public comment section, I wanted to go over a few logistics and the guidelines for a very conducive and respectful meeting. So prior to public participation, we will provide an opportunity for city, state, and federal elected officials to speak, which they have already been invited to, and I think that they have withheld that request just yet. During the public participation, each speaker that has signed up to speak will have 2 minutes to share their thoughts. You will get a warning at the 1-minute mark when there are 30 seconds remaining and when time is up. Speakers must speak at the podium. You see that microphone over here. Please do not touch or grab the microphone. The sound is going to control it from above. And please remember that the purpose of this meeting is to hear from those that are in attendance, and that there is both a stenographer that's seated right here, capturing every remark, as well as a CPS note taker sitting right here at the table at this meeting. In the interest of time, we will generally not be responding to any questions or comments at this meeting. Please remember that the stenographer can only capture the speaker's remarks if there is no additional noise. So it's important that we respect the speakers at the mic. So please keep your voices down in the audience when they're speaking so that she can hear to get the notes recorded accordingly. The meeting is scheduled to attend at 8 p.m. and the comment period will last until the scheduled end time of the meeting. If translation is required, each speaker will have their full time, and then the translator will share a summary of the speaker's comments. We also have sign language interpreters for anybody who may need that, and she's sitting right up here in the front row. Please remember to start your remarks with your name and your affiliation with the school so that it can be a part of the official record. And if you did not have a chance to comment, again, you can take a card at the back and write your comments, leave it at the desk, and we will submit it to cps.edu/transitions. For additional information, please reference the transition plan regarding this school action at the same website. In addition, meeting summaries for each community meeting will be available online at the website within 5 days of the meetings. I keep saying the website is cps.edu/transitions. In addition, a reminder that we have representatives from ODLSS, Temporary Living Situations, Unshell, and Talent Office who will be available for 30 minutes after the meeting again to have answer any questions that you may have. Please note that the tables are not, again, formally part of the process. So please, those will be private conversations between you and that person. To begin the public comment section, I would like to give, I'm going to scratch that, because we have so many elected officials, they always get the opportunity to say if they want to speak first. I think we have vetted that right now, and that's not to say that they won't speak at any time during the meeting, but right now they have declined to speak at the beginning. We will now begin calling participants who have registered to speak. So at this time, Kareem Pender will be navigating the microphone over here. With speakers number 1 through 5, please line up behind the podium and just in this aisle right here. We will continue to call speakers up in advance to allow the most people to speak. Note, you will be responsible for calling up subsequent speakers, and we will keep a consistent line. The speaker flow, we will continue to keep the flow going as we move from 1 through 5 and then 5 to 5 through 10. As a reminder, please start your remarks with your name, your affiliation, and with the school so that it can be part of the record. Again, if you go past 2 minutes, the time card keeper, where's our timekeeper? There you are. Gregory Gray from local school council will be serving as our timekeeper. At this point, the speaker will be asked to please conclude their remarks or other similar phrases that you are comfortable with. We will not be disrespectful, okay? And we don't want you to be either. Do not allow any individual to walk away with the microphone, please, Kareem. And speakers, please speak loudly. And if I can get that request from the sound, you can raise the sound level so that we can make sure that our stenographer and our note keeper can hear the sound when the speakers begin to speak. Any questions related to the transition plans or any other information will be answered directly at the table if you request any further information. Any questions not covered, we want to thank you for your comments. Again, you can submit your information to the cps.edu/transitions. So, I think you've heard enough of me, and you've seen the presentation. Tonight is for you, and we want to hear from all of you all. Your voices, again, are important, but it's also important that we are able to hear the voices. We also want to be respectful of our language. We do have children, wonderful children from NTA, from South Loop, from all of our schools. At the end of the day, these proposed actions affect our children, and it's all about what we are doing for the children in the city of Chicago and Chicago Public Schools. So to further not delay it, let's move to speaker number 1.
Hello, my name is Deshaun Boston, and I am a 7th grade former student at NTA. I've been here since 3rd grade, and these last 4 years have been great. This school is a wonderful school that little children depend on. This is not okay. This great school is a +1 school of excellence, but we are still on the decision of being built to a high school. My 4 years have been fun, and I always have felt safe and protected. My first little brother, Javion, won't be affected by this, but my other little brother, known as Josiah Boston, will be affected, and I would hate for him to miss out on the wonderful times I've had, and I would hate to have to see that. So, I don't know. It's like kind of like upset to kind of like see him, and well, I kind of miss this school, even though I'll be graduating, but I still have like other little brothers that still go to this school, and they kind of like depend on this. So, and also we have wonderful teachers and a wonderful principal, vice principal, and everything. It's a wonderful school, and I would hate to see this school be closed down. And
my name is James Miller. I'm a South Loop resident. And since I was illegally forced to declare my allegiance before being allowed to speak, I chose to be for a high school plan, just not this one. I cannot support a plan based on lies, and neither should you. Lies told to sell this plan. Number 1, NTA is not closing. NTA is an elementary school. If you change it to a high school, it is different. If I go to a hot dog stand today, and I come back tomorrow at the taco stand, the hot dog stand is closed. Number 2, the alderman and the CEO of Chicago Public Schools are out there saying it is a tale of two cities at NTA. Well, at a tale of two cities, they're saying the RGC students and the neighborhood children go to different high schools and don't have the same opportunity. How do you know? Our RGC only goes to the 5th grade. So you're out there telling lies to sell a plan that makes no sense. Number 3, everyone in the boundary is going to get a C. I know we're not good at math sometimes here at CPS, but when you have 650 students per class graduating, and there is only 250 seats, someone's going to be left out. Remember that, Chinatown. Line number 4, the NTA students can successfully be integrated into a school that successfully kicked them out 10 years ago. Number 5, we can convert that school for $10 million. For $10 million, we can raise the urinals from here to here, and we can maybe convert the pool. That's about it.
John Pointer, NTA is best. To my family, to my friends, to my staff, I want y'all to know. Can y'all please stand up so they can hear this? This is NTA family. This is a family that has built NTA, has lived NTA, has did everything in their power to take care of NTA. At the end, I've been there since 2002. I have opened a book in that building. And to see the book closed on that building, it's not right. And at the end, we need to stay together because we make NTA what it is. It's plus, it's level 1. We need to stay there. We need not to go nowhere but stay at NTA. South Blue kids, if you want to come to NTA, we'll take care of you. Yes, we will. We'll take care of you. If y'all want to build another South Blue, you can build that for the high school. That could be the high school. But NTA is NTA. No other way. We cannot never change NTA. You cannot take NTA from us because we live NTA. I've been there to live it. I've been there to see it, and I've seen it develop. I see some of the best kids come out that building. I see some of the finest administrators come through that building. And to take it away, it ain't right. It ain't right. So this is what we gonna do. We gonna stick together and we gonna fight it out until y'all make a decision. All kids is kids. Not this kid over here, not this kid here. We fight together, we stay together. And to the parents fight real hard. They fight. I commend them. I commend them because they want what's best for their kids. Any kids are always welcome to come to NTA. We'll never turn you away. We'll take care of you. If you want to know about NTA, come to our doors and find out. Don't use lies. Don't use suggestions that you think that it's right when it's wrong. We right here. We all here. This is what we believe in. We believe in NTA. And we're going to live until we die. So that's what we're going to do. Thank you.
Speakers 6 through 10 can begin lining up. Speakers 6 through 10.
Follow that. My name is Ben Shambo. I'm the parent of a South Loop student and an NTA student. I've got feet in both wells. And I feel like the very first question that needs to be asked at every one of these meetings, at every one of these presentations, needs to be, what are we sacrificing NTA for? Right. It needs to be, what are we sacrificing the hard work of Principal Castellets, the fantastic teachers and staff at that school, Mr. Pointer, who I've got to follow. What are we sacrificing all that work for? And it's not lost on me that most of the voices at these community meetings that have expressed support for a neighborhood high school option has been just that, support for a neighborhood high school option. It's a vision of what they see in their heads, of what they want. However, the voices of those who have opposed this plan see it for what it is. They've looked past what could be with that building, and they see what's being promised and how it doesn't add up. And that just seems to Well, let's put it this way. I see these new proposed boundaries, and I'm even more convinced of the fact that once you look at the details, there's no way that you can support this. For the schools that are part of the guarantee boundary, you have math there. The math I have from CPS's own website says that that's about 500 kids per class, per grade level, which is twice the size of the available boundary in NTA. The lottery is another 150 seats, which means they're pretty much out. You add the private schools, the private elementary schools, Francis Xavier Ward, British School, Old St. Mary's, St. Therese, VCA, Daystar, St. Jerome, Huitai, Santa Lucia, and more than I'm sure I've missed. That's another 350 seats. What are we going to do with NTA? Are we suddenly going to double its size? What are we sacrificing NTA for? And I don't see the numbers. I don't see the numbers. And finally, to my alderman, to Mr. Thompson. You are the 11th Ward alderman. I'm in your ward, and I ask you respectfully, why are you supporting this? Looking at a map of your ward, half of the map is already out. Half of your ward is out of the school. Another quarter is out by virtue of being in the lottery. Please tell us, why are you supporting something that cuts out people in your constituency?
My name is Jesse Sharkey. I'm the Vice President of Chicago Teachers Union, and on behalf of 25,000 teachers, PSRPs, and clinicians that make the schools in this entire city go every day, I want to firmly state our opposition to this plan to phase out and close NTA. The plan is ill-conceived in that it undermines the academic success at a jewel of a neighborhood school. CPS has a dismal record of punishing those schools which struggle the most. You know, since 2004, what CPS has done is it has used low test scores in literally dozens of schools in Black and Latino neighborhoods across the city. It has used low test scores as a club to beat down the morale, and then as justification for closing those schools. It never made any sense to me. To close the schools that were performed the lowest, that were also in the poorest neighborhoods. Want to stay off the list? Raise your scores, they said. It never made much sense, but at least we understood it. At least it was a rationale that if you taught in a school, that if you work hard and you were involved in a local school council, you were a parent, at least you knew how to keep your school from being closed. But now comes NTA, and CPS proposes to turn this proposition that we've lived by for the last 15 years exactly on its head, in which we're going to close a high-performing school because CPS wants a building for a gentrifying neighborhood. That's what it is. It was bad enough that CPS closed schools based on the values of tests. Now we're closing schools based on the values of condominiums. And we shouldn't do it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The last thing we are told is that closing NTA will actually help racial integration and will be a blow for racial justice in this city. Bull. If you cannot stand for racial justice, which we must have in the city, which we must have in these schools, we must have racial justice. But you cannot do that by attacking a successful school that manages to have students of all races work together and find academic success. You don't punish your successful schools. You don't do it. Again, the Chicago Teachers Union firmly opposes the plan to phase out and then close NTA. We ask CEO Janice Jackson and the rest of the Board of Ed to vote no on this plan. Thank you.
Way to go.
Good evening. My name is Pastor Earl Granberry. I've been in the South for 36 years. Change is hard. But parents, I want to share something with you. Don't think with your emotions. Make sure you think about your children. Don't you get so caught up in this that you hurt your children. Don't make a decision that you're going to regret.
Whose children are you talking about?
We finished. You didn't interrupt nobody else. Stay in your place, okay?
No, we don't have a place.
Can we have a little bit more sound on the mic,
Stay in
please?
my place.
If you listen,
Let's just be respectful and allow the speakers to speak. Thank you.
I know change is hard. But don't think with your emotions. This is good for every child. You may not see it now, but if you would stop thinking with your emotions and look at the plan, they already put the plan up there and showed it to you. But there are lies and rumors out here. Don't manipulate your children.
We know about children.
That's what you're doing.
We know
You're
about
manipulating your children.
What are you getting at?
This will help your children and not hurt your children. I'm not going to get in debate with you. Just stop thinking with your emotions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have the next speaker.
Shame on you.
Let's respect the speaker, please. Thank you. We have a child at the mic.
One of us.
Hello, my name is Jasmine, and I'm a 3rd grade student from NTA. I don't want my school to be taken away. We are a 1+ school. I learned reading, science, swimming, and math. My school is a level 1+. My school, I don't want it to lose. I love the way my classmates are nice. They made our school a 1+ school. My teacher taught me a lot of things, and I don't want that to go away. Please don't take away my school, please.
I'm sorry. My name is Ananja. I'm a parent. I have 2 daughters at TA.
Move in closer, please.
And my daughters were from a displaced school. Their previous school had closed and they moved them into another school. And it was not good. My daughters was not doing good at all. And before, when I moved to NTA, they have went from being D's and F's to A's and B's. So the staff is phenomenal. I have never seen a more involved principal. The teachers they care about the students so much that I trust them completely with my children. So I beg, please do not come to this school. This is the best school in the South. Thank you.
My name is Mansour Marty. I have a child at NTA as well as South Loop. National Teachers Academy ignites momentum, inspiring Black youth to be future leaders that will create a just society. President Barack Obama declared that education is a civil rights issue of our time, and NTA is transforming the lives of generations of Black people. So why is CPS eliminating NTA? NTA serves students that are 75% African American and 75% economically disadvantaged. NTA students outperform 75% of students across the country. In fact, 7th and 8th graders grow greater academically than 90% of students nationwide. So why is CPS eliminating NTA? CPS declares more affluent, more white South Loop families don't send their children to Phillips, the zone high school. CPS says converting NTA into a high school provides South Loop families a peace of mind by guaranteeing access to a quality high school. Translation: Phillips is not high quality for more affluent, more white families. So why is CPS eliminating NTA? Pastor Granberry said, all kids deserve access to a high-quality high school in their community. While Phillips is not high quality for South Loop families, CPS has made Phillips the receiving school for the Inglewood students currently being evicted. Translation, Phillips is high quality for less affluent, more black families. So why is CPS eliminating NTA? CPS says years ago, boundaries were drawn that excluded and separated low-income black children. And now that NTA is transforming the lives of these same black children, CPS decides they want to right a historical wrong. How is eliminating NTA, a vital community resource, and preventing generations of low-income black children from attending a school that is transforming and igniting future black leaders the right thing to do? While Chicago aspires to be one Chicago, we know the reality. Chicago is a hyper-segregated city dividing the have and have-nots. I call that Chicagoans embrace this unjust action as a catalyst for change, a need to create a just society. We choose, we decide.
Speakers 11 through 15 may begin to line up. Speakers 11 through 15. Also, keep your fist away from the mic. Just speak directly into the mic. Thank you.
My name is Rosario Pennant, and I am in 4th grade, and I am an honor roll student, and I have a sister in 1st grade, and if me and my sister get split up, me and my mom won't have enough for me and my sister to get to school. Thank you.
Once again, we may have speakers 11 through 15 begin to line up. Speakers 11 through 15.
My name is David Wu from the Coalition for a Better Chinese American Community. Since I posted up the high school boundary map yesterday, I've been flamed a couple times about being racist, classist, and whether or not I'm living up to my religious convictions. One of my friends asked me, you don't have to respond to that, but I told him, I just take a deep breath, try not to react, and try to answer your questions factually. And you know, whether or not you believe that CPS should not close a level 1+ school, or whether you think that CPS should convert the school into a high school that's very diverse, serving a very low-income area in Bronzeville, Armour Square, Bridgeport. You don't have to be accused of being racist or classist or have your religious convictions questioned. I'm glad that we're not hearing much of that today, but it doesn't have to be that. But Chinatown, CPCAC supports the high school conversion and the boundary as it serves a huge area that has never had its own high school. 40, 50 years, people have been going far away to schools. Very few schools have responded to our needs, helping our new immigrant kids to have good bilingual programs, and so having a school close by serves that need. Sarah here talked to us yesterday, and I totally disagreed with her introduction to the piece. She said Chinatown was celebrating this, and we were not celebrating this, because to make a diverse high school, where there's kids, Hispanic, Chinese, Asian American, white, from very different backgrounds, is not going to be easy. But Chinatown is committed to making it work. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hey, Jay.
I'm Audrey Johnson, a parent of the National Teachers Academy and a former student, a former resident of the Earl Icky homes, born and raised. Y'all keep talking about, y'all tell me, you keep, Ms. Pastor Dan Gray, you keep talking about we getting the wrong information. Who are you? I don't even know you. As a pastor, I ain't never seen you come to the Harold Eaton Homes and support our community, nor National Teachers Academy. I have a brick in the building. Been there every
Thank you. Let's address the issue here. Let's talk about schools. Thank you.
What happens to our park district? Our park district don't only serve our kids, it serves our seniors, it serves the Chinese community, it serves our kids during the summertime. So what happens with our children in our community? We got enough killing going on, but that's what's going to happen all summer. Or what happens to our seniors now don't have nothing to do? They come over and swim in the morning, get themselves together. Y'all take it away for y'all benefit. When them builders was up, it was cool. We was supporting y'all. You had our votes. Now builders is down. You don't need us no more. Use South Loop. But you won't use them for NTA. You sure won't. And you won't keep putting us down talking about we misleading our kids. Our kids know exactly what's going on. You know why? Because they come from NTA. And we make sure that they know what's going on. So all you grown adults, save it. Tell your own kids.
Speakers 16 through 20 may line up. Speaker numbers 16 through 20.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'll try that again. Good evening.
Good evening. We sorry.
I'm Joy Clendenning. I'm a parent of 2 CPS graduates and 2 current CPS students. I'm the managing director at Raise Your Hand for Illinois Public Education. Raise Your Hand is here tonight to stand with the amazing students, parents, teachers, and staff of NTA. Yes, we oppose the closing of NTA, which is falsely labeled a reassignment boundary change. For years, CPS has used questionable measures in their school action decisions, closing so-called low-performing schools based on narrow metrics of test scores, or closing so-called underutilized schools based on deeply flawed space utilization formulas, which allows 36 students in a classroom. We've objected to those standards and the lack of a broad context used to analyze how a school is doing again and again and again. But schools are forced to adapt to these various metrics CPS imposes on them as they are judged, punished, or rewarded. So now, CPS has decided to toss their own rules and close this high-performing African-American school. We've had the privilege of meeting many NTA students as they've come out to boldly and confidently testify, showing us all leadership, critical thinking, and incredible poise. So tonight, we do want to say, because we know there may be parents here from Bridgeport who are just hearing about this, we want to say to you, do not become part of these racist Hunger Games. There are other solutions that need to be considered because Black students matter, and we are all NTA.
Hi, my name is Nadia. I have 2 children at NTA. One is in 4th grade and one is in kindergarten. A quick story about my 4th grader. The other day, her teacher emailed me and another parent about a conflict that she had between my daughter and her friend that resulted in hurt feelings. The conflict itself wasn't surprising. This is the age where many preteen girls go through, experience similar issues. What I appreciated, though, was the great length that her teacher went to help repair that space. She didn't just ask one girl to simply apologize to the other, but rather she took them through an exercise of reflection, listening, accountability, and working together to resolve the issue so it wouldn't happen again. This process of restorative justice, where problems are addressed head-on, healing is prioritized, and justice and community are at the foundation of it all, is why my children are at National Teachers Academy. And this is what they will lose if NTA is converted to a high school. The fact that my daughter, who isn't even 10 yet, is engaging in this type of learning every day in our high school gives me hope not only for the kind of citizen that she and her peers will become, but for the future of this amazing city. I truly believe that tomorrow's activists and public servants, those who are organizing and rallying on the streets of Chicago and improving it for its better, will come from the National Teachers Academy. Schools like this should be highlighted, replicated, and improved, not underutilized or closed down. Unfortunately, though, we're here today because CPS has decided that it's in the best interest of the Near South community to dismantle the great work happening at NTA and convert it to a high school. So tonight I ask, if NTA had been majority white, would we be standing here before you tonight? To dismantle a thriving community school, to open a neighborhood high school because of the belief that there is no viable high school option in the Near South is actually insulting to the hard work of Phillips and Dunbar and the work that they have put in their schools to get them to where they are today. It also enables the South Loop community's unfounded racism and classism toward the school options that they have. Instead, we should be investing in these institutions and their 4,600 vacant seats rather than creating a brand new option at the expense of another community. So I ask you again, would we be standing here tonight if NTA was a majority white school?
Good evening, my name is Elizabeth Greer. My second grader started the year at NTA with 35 students in her neighborhood classroom. Our principal, Mr. Castellas, knew that number was unacceptable. And through careful budgeting, he was able to fund a teacher's position and open up another classroom. This classroom, however, is no ordinary classroom. The second grade teachers pulled the highest achievers and formed a comprehensive gifted class. My daughter is now in a cohort with 20 other students. Yes, there's 21 students in her class who are being taught at least one grade level ahead, and they will remain a cohort until they graduate from the 8th grade. My black daughter looks around her room and sees other black students who are just as smart and high achieving as she is. She is growing up in an environment where being smart and black is the rule, not the exception. This is what NTA gives to black students like my daughter. And this is what CPS's racist plan wants to destroy. My father was born in 1941 in the rural South. When I showed him CPS's proposal, he said, and I quote, "This plan could have been drawn up in Jackson, Mississippi in the 1950s. Line by line, word by word," end quote. At no time in CPS's history have they planned to dismantle a level 1+ school and to attack NTA in this way. In 2018 is to turn back the clock 60 years, thereby ruining the educational future of black children who depend on and love NTA.
Speakers 21 to 25 may line up. Speakers 21 to 25.
Hi, my name is Amy Rome. I've had the privilege of working with and in NTA for over a decade. While I agree with so much of what's been said about NTA and the lack of a feasible plan here for a high school to relieve the overcrowding of our high schools and the need for a great high school in the community, but I really want to focus on the 20 years that I spent in the community. I came to this community in 1994 as a teacher at John C. Haynes School and have watched the families in this community take transition after transition after transition. First, the tunnel that separated John C. Haynes School from where now NTA is would often be locked in the morning if the Chicago Police Department didn't have a patrol officer to unlock it. So we had kids who literally lived in the Harold Ickes development who had to walk across the Dan Ryan Expressway ramp to get to school in the morning. Watched the boundaries at South Loop Elementary be changed when it was convenient politically. Watched families from Haynes moved to NTA. Only the African American families moved to NTA when NTA opened. Watched South Loop overcrowd, and then NTA being asked to take a transition of the regional gifted program into the building. Price was closed, NTA again assumed another transition. Throughout all of these transitions that really impacted Black families in this community, NTA still, while it opened, was in the bottom, 14% of the kids were meeting or exceeding state standards as measured by ISAT at that time. In spite of that, it is now a level 1+ school, and we continue to disenfranchise the families that are served by the community. There are people in this room, both politicians and CPS officials, Jim Dispenza, Alderman Dowell, who weathered so many of these transitions and understand the impact on families in this community, and still support a plan that disenfranchises them further. It's without conscience to put this plan in place. It's not feasible, and it continues to disrespect families.
My name is Raquel Don. I'm a parent from James Ward School. I'm an LSC member there, and I too am a very passionate and dedicated parent. I am proud to say that I am from Bridgeport. I'm the 4th generation to live there, and there is no public high school in Bridgeport. But my pride of Bridgeport not only comes from the multiple generations that my family has been there, it is in the diversity of our neighborhood. And I believe that we have enough students in our neighborhood and the diversity to make a great high school in the Bridgeport area. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eli Diaz. I'm a parent from NTA student. I was asked for or against the proposal. My opinion is truly irrelevant. I have no friends in high places. I was reminded of that when Janice Jackson said, Chicago is Chicago. The truly profound meaning of such a simple phrase. When I heard Janice say this during some news interview, it focused my mind again on what is happening here at NTA and the closing of it. Understand what is said, Chicago is Chicago. It's truly very simple. In this case, it would mean orders from downtown have been given. Friends and family have been awarded city contracts, and all that's left is for CPS, cronies or not, is to comply with state mandates in regards to public hearings and state guidelines. Their intentions will be made whether it benefits the greater constituents or not. The only importance in such cases is whether the political families of Chicago have received their share of the spoils. As an NTA parent, I don't come here to complain of the illnesses that are perpetuated by downtown, but to remind others that our problems originate with downtown. And our career aldermen and career commissioners who serve with virtual tenureships, who truly believe that when their interests are served, that Chicago's interest is served. If we, as people, don't want to find ourselves spinning into the wind again, then a true effort to replace our career politicians needs to begin, so the people can have a meaningful representation. So an excellent school isn't closed to line somebody's pocket.
My name is Tina Feldstein. I'm with the Prairie District Neighborhood Alliance, and I am a longtime Southwood resident. And I want to make it very clear that we're 100% in support of this plan. I also want to commend CPS as well as everyone who has participated and been engaged in this process for bringing up feedback that has been applied. So for example, the expanding of the boundaries to include the entire MTA boundary, which includes Motor Road. There's been a lot of cries from people in that area that were cut out from the new boundary. So the proposed boundaries for the elementary school is a great improvement. At this point, obviously this is still just a proposal. There are a lot of people that have been crying and calling for a neighborhood high school for many, many, many years. We know Chinatown has said over 40 years. Many people in the South Loop have been leaving simply because there's no opportunity. It's so difficult to get into a selective enrollment high school. So having a neighborhood high school that's going to serve such a diversified group in our community is a huge win. In the long run, we will all look back if this proposal is approved and say that was the best thing for the whole. For the whole.
You can sell property, you have no students in either school.
So the question I bring up, I ask, and I'm not sure, maybe the steering committee has addressed that, maybe it hasn't. It's still unclear as to how many of, if the proposal were to move forward, how many of the teachers from MTA would also transition. So I was just curious as to that. I just wanted to bring up a question. But other than that, I applaud the process. I really appreciate that everyone has an opportunity to come and speak, whether people agree with what they have to say or not. And I, once again, want to say we support the plan.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
My name is May. I'm a parent of first grade son at NCA. I wasn't really prepared, but I just want to share a few things. Number one, I remember one day coming to pick my son up from NCA in tears because I was about to lose my job from the schedule of not having an after-school program. The staff there took me in and took my son and told me they would physically walk him to his project program. Not only did that help me and my son a lot, I was able to keep my job as well as be promoted to branch manager. Now, being a product, recently graduated in 2008 from CPS school under Elizabeth A. Kirby as the principal. She constantly reminded us the value of going to a good school as opposed to a school in Inglewood. I grew up here. She reminded me personally, time after time, that she could easily send me back to Harper, Inglewood, where I came from. So I value a good education. I have friends who have kids in lower funded schools where they don't have gym, they don't have PE. My son has swimming, he has theater, he has drama, he goes on constant trips. He had a petting zoo at his school. It doesn't stop with NCA. They care about their kids, they want to teach them a lot, they learn. I mean, they have a clinic at their school, so when he's sick, as a single parent, single mother, I don't have to take off. I can send him to school and know that he's okay. I moved from Inglewood to avoid the issues of him having to go to different schools being closed down to the South Loop area, and now here we are again. It's just sad that this day and age, and me recently, within the last almost 10 years or so, graduating from CPS, that this is what we have to go through. My son asks me every time school is about to start, will I be going back to NCA? What's going to happen? What's going on, Mommy? Why is they closing my school? I really have no answers except for that you guys went to school for Chinatown or Chinese high school. Why everyone just can't get a plan that's equal for everybody and leave NCA out of it?
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi everyone, I'm Dana Metz. I'm a resident of the 11th Ward. I have to say before this meeting, I knew very, very little about NTA Elementary. It's been extremely eye-opening listening to all of you. No doubt that NTA in its current state is a great place for our students, so a genuine thank you to the teachers, the faculty, the eager students, and the supportive parents. And I also believe that there is a dire need for a high school in the area, and specifically in the Bridgeport area where I live. So, operating under the premise that this plan does go through, what I find particularly troubling is the boundaries as they are laid out right now. You see, I live at 37th Place in Halstead, which is just 2 tiny blocks outside of the southern boundary. And right now, my 2 daughters would be excluded from attending. Now, if you drive south on Halstead, has anyone driven south on Halstead, actually south of 35th Street? Yeah. So you might, if you've driven there in the past couple of years, you might have noticed an influx of new housing being built. In the small section right there, it's about 2 to 3 blocks, there have been 150 new homes, 150 new homes. That holds, as of today, 200, if you ask me in 6 months, it might be 250 kids. So over 200 kids that are currently excluded from these boundaries. And we're just part of the story. So I'm here today, at the support of my neighbors, to request that the boundaries be extended to include the entire 11th ward. I think that's a reasonable request, and our kids deserve it. So I look forward to hearing the additional comments, and I truly hope that we can come to a compromise where no child is left behind. Thank you.
Speakers 26 through 28 may line up. Any speakers with the numbers 26 through 28 may line up.
Hello, my name is Maya Aurora Cicero. NTA is a really good school and it's really nice. It is for all kids and it is for the poor and the rich, so we need to keep NTA And some teachers will lose their jobs if we do not keep NTA open. My classmates are really nice. If NTA closes, I might never see them again. NTA is one of the best schools in the world. So please, CPS, don't turn NTA into a high school.
Buenas noches, can you hear me? My name is Salvador Cicero. I am Maya's proud father. She is a student in the 2nd grade at NTA. I will not repeat what everybody else has said, but I'll tell you some facts that I have seen. It's a level 1 plus school. We have a community, we have quality, we have sports, we have amazing facilities, we have Girl Scouts. It exists. It is real. It is palpable. We have Black, Latinos, Asian, and white living in harmony. We are here to stay. And we deserve more. We deserve NTA, and we deserve a high school. We live in Bridgeport, so we have that concern as well, right? We want a high school that when Maya finishes at NTA, she can go to. One of the things that I have learned from this process is if there's one thing that it has done to NTA is galvanize us. It has turned us into a true community. I have made a lot of friends, a lot of parents, blacks, whites, all kinds of different religions. It has been the only positive thing about this process. This is the jewel of the South Side. It is something that CPS is doing right. CPS is doing this right. This is a CPS school. So let's give it up. Thank you.
We have speakers 21 through 25. Anybody have 26 through 30? Any speakers 26 through 30? Let's go to 35. Okay, okay, we got them coming.
Hello, can everybody hear me? My name is Dagry Lewis.
Kareem, fix the mic, please.
My name is Dagry Lewis. I'm a long-term resident of the South Loop. I wasn't going to get up and say anything because I hadn't really prepared. It's very emotional to sit here and see these kids, see these babies fight for their school. I've lived in the South Loop since I was single, a long time ago. And I now have a 9-year-old. I chose to send my child to NTA. It's a very special place. I lived in the South Loop. I know what the attitudes were. I know that people saw that brand new facility over there, didn't know what was going on over there, but thought that they were entitled to it. And then I came to visit, and I saw what was going on. And I saw our brown babies who did not have as much as my child has, who was not as affluent, getting a wonderful education, and besides that, a wonderful family. A beautiful place for our kids to learn and to thrive. So now I ask you, it is now a level 1+ school. Why was it okay? Why is it okay to sacrifice it? Why is NTA expendable? Because South Loop was not expendable. Those people wanted, and I live in that neighborhood, a lot of people wanted a new facility. They're getting a new facility. We had a new facility. We could have accommodated more kids at NTA, but they chose not to make that decision. Yes, I would love to have a new, brand new, spanking new, flashy building, high school for my daughter Peyton to go to. I would love that. Everybody in Chicago wants that. But, thank you, 30 seconds. But everybody can't have that. I would love that. I think there's another solution on the horizon. I go to church right across the street from Phillips. I see that there are wonderful things going on there. It may not be attractive to us now, but that investment that you're placing in trying to displace NTA could be used to make Phillips a school that would be attractive for many to come to and encourage those who are afraid to go to come.
Good afternoon. My name is Sabrina Borkins. I am a grandmother at National Teacher Academy with 5 granddaughters. Those in NTA trying to make it a high school, I disagree with that. The staff at NTA has been excellent. I have been there from volunteering, even the teachers past their time to be there, like 6 o'clock. I know they out before that, right? Working diligently hard from what I've been seeing and volunteering. When I see the teachers there working with the children, with the band, you got the swimming team, basketball, football, soccer, and of course the different level for the children. Working with them, and their grades was not good when they came there, but they have pulled them up working with the staff and teachers at National Teacher Academy. And also, I wasn't prepared to speak either. I wasn't going to speak. But I said, well, let me come down and say what's on my mind, because I think it's unfair to the children. And they say National Teacher Academy. True, national will be for all the children. T for all the greatest teachers that's teaching there and all around the school. And the academy, which it will always be from what I know. Thank you. Have a good night.
Hi, my name is Kayla Perkins. I am 12 years old from the 7th grade, and I am a proud student of National Teacher Academy. I have been attending NTA since I was in kindergarten. I feel that this proposal is unacceptable and should not be continued. CPS is trying to dismantle a community that has been around for a long time in our NTA family. CPS needs to be building up schools, not tearing them down. Yes. Black student lives and their education matter, but they obviously can't see that. NTA needs to remain a level 1+ elementary school and nothing less. NTA is here to stay.
Hi, my name is Taylor Wallace. I am in the 8th grade going to National Teacher Academy. I shouldn't have to come here and fight for my school. Other students and staff shouldn't have to come here and fight for our school. I've been to plenty of meetings and I'm not going to stop coming. Our message obviously haven't been flowed through your brains.
We're fighting and we're not going to stop fighting. I've been at NTA since first grade, and this is my last year. But I could never imagine NTA to be closed. This transition plan isn't just, and you know it isn't. This is racist, and you should own up to it and stop it. This will be my last year. This won't be the last you've seen of me and my school. Matter of fact, this is just the start. The proposal to close NTA won't affect my education, but it will affect me emotionally. It will affect the little kids. Why can't they get the same education as me in the same community? Do you think we're stupid enough to believe this plan is for the better? You say you listen to what we have to say, but do you really? Will you just say what I say goes? My peers do not want the seat at South Loop. Again, my peers do not want a seat at South Loop. South Loop isn't NTA, and it will never be NTA. We will keep our seats at NTA. Why won't you let us? You should want to set a meaningful example, not one that says I have power and you don't. We're not stupid, and I am very, very far from stupid, and so are my peers. We will not sit here and watch you take NTA. We will fight, and I can promise you, we will fight.
My name is Joey Limpanalia. I too live in the 11th Ward. I too am on 37th Street, just 2 blocks away from the boundary. My concern is, again, as another resident said, we have no high school. NTA family and parents, South Loop, Holden, Graham, none of us have a high school. Wendell Phillips is a level 2 academic probation. Tilden is the same. We have no high school. And while I understand you're fighting for your community and your school, and I get that, I have 3 children in CPS, 4th one going in next year, but I have no high school. That leaves us in a position to either leave our homes and move out of the city or pay for Catholic education. The taxes you are paying shouldn't require you or force you to pay for Catholic education. I don't know if this decision is right or not to merge the 2 schools. South Loop is an excellent school. NTA is an excellent school. I really don't know the ramifications of it. But what I do know is none of us have a high school. So, level 2 academic probation. You wouldn't send your kids to that school, and neither would I. My point is this.
Excuse me, but she's speaking.
With these boundaries, you have left out half of Bridgeport and all of Canaryville, who also do not have a high school. Thank you.
Let me say this before the next speaker comes, please. Let me just say this. Every time somebody speaks, there is respect for them. But if there's an opposition, then we want to shout them down. We need to hear those voices too, out of respect for it. We don't always have to agree, but at least we can be respectful. They too have concerns. They are residents of this community, and they may be different from yours, but they have a right to express that, and we have a right to listen to it respectfully. So can we please encourage each other to do that? Next speaker.
I'm sitting there listening. I listened to a young lady who just said something about, I shouldn't have to come here to fight for a school. And I have been coming to every single hearing up to this point. And a lot of thoughts came into my mind. I really don't know where to start with. But I think she gave me the inspiration that I shouldn't have to fight for that school. Because when we hear all this story, I can tell you that I'm deeply impressed by the advocacy of the NTA family. I think you have put up a very good case. But maybe China and I have not been able to tell our story effectively because we never had a school. And maybe people don't even realize that we have been at this neighborhood for over 100 years. And I personally have been listening to all this story for 50 years in this area. And it saddened me that we all try to solve problems that affect all of us, and none of us really have this golden bullet that can solve the problem for everybody. And it turned into this racial issue about don't trust CPS, don't trust this, don't trust that, where we always take the action of Okay, we are not, well, in Chinatown we have a meeting where people shed tea about the NTA case experience. We look at all the situation, whereas CPS, would you listen to the NTA people? Would you have to come up with the answer why this has to be the solution? But the other thing, I'm also listening to my community, but we never had this school for over 100 years. So where does it leave us? And what if it turned into a situation that pits one community against another? This is not what we want to see. People started talking about the race issue. I have dealt with that. I know about this tunnel issue between Chinatown and the African American community. But 20-some years ago, I invited some black leaders from there to come to meet with Chinatown leaders. I personally, in the 90s, have gone over to meeting with them to make it, let's deal with issue as the prime issue, not race issue, we can try to solve. But we have a story to tell. Maybe we have not been able to tell that story effectively. But we have been waiting for high school for a long time too. But what is the proper solution? What is the best solution? We don't know. But let's not try to turn against each other. Let's try to give each other some more listening.
Thank you. We have about 37 minutes left, and we still have room for speakers. If you have spoken already, you can register again to speak again and approach the microphone. If you have not, and you do have a card that you have, just bring it up and we will hear your comments at this time.
My name is Wendy Miller.
Okay. Wait, the microphone is off. We have to wait on the sound lady. A minute to turn the mic on. Okay. All right, here we go. Go ahead. Okay.
My name is Wendy Miller. I'm a parent of two lovely twins at NTA. NTA is special in a way that should be a beacon in CPS for families that need a better opportunity. My daughters are loved and are safe. They have the opportunity to get to know people from different cultures, races, and learn from these wonderful people. They are taken care of in a way that is more personal than just staff doing their job, and that is because NTA is a family, not just a school. If you support CPS proposal, you are complicit in the effort to ruin the educational continuity of over 700 elementary school children. You need to admit that to yourself and to your neighbors in this room who attend NTA. Admit that you expect NTA families to sacrifice their school for your benefit, and admit that you feel your community's needs are more important than the needs of the NTA community. To the steering committee, and I know there's a couple of you here, you cannot just go to meetings and make a list in order to add NTA culture to a school that doesn't place the same value on all children. You cannot add family culture to a school whose leadership does not treat all families with respect. And I had a daughter go there. If you are happy at a South Loop, that's fine. But do not assume you can sell South Loop values to families who know something brighter on the south side of Cermak. NTA takes care of all of its families. All children are valued equally and respected. Students are empowered to speak with their own strong, confident voice. NTA ignites momentum. We are building future leaders that are culturally aware and strive for a just society. Our students are courageous and lead with integrity. They stand up for what is right and speak against what is wrong. Our older students set an excellent example for our younger students, speaking up for their beliefs, standing up for what is right. Is this proposal wrought from the Chicago way the best we can do for our future? Is anything that is the Chicago way in the best interest in the future of our students? I think not.
I didn't really prepare anything in particular for this meeting because as I sit here at this meeting, just like I've gone to so many board meetings and so many other town hall meetings, I find myself asking the same question of why are we here? As you can see, there are very few people, even people who are looking for a high school, who speak strongly in support of this plan. It's obvious that the majority of the community and the people who live within the boundaries of NTA have opposed this plan. We've gone to countless meetings and talked about it. If you look at the numbers in terms of who supports and who's opposed, it's clear where the majority lies in terms of who will be affected. But that obviously doesn't matter. So I'm just honestly wondering, why are we even here for this show? I think that what is most important to me is I wonder, when CPS released this process of when you do like a school transition or whatever it's called, what weight or consideration is given to how a proposal, even if it originates within a community, or an opposing, for lack of a better term, community, what consideration is given to how that proposal will affect the most vulnerable communities? When you look at the closures for CPS in the past, there's evidence that it has a negative effect on GPA. GPA is decreased by about 10%, decrease in attendance, decrease in attendance for both college and high school. And again, you have the most vulnerable population, predominantly low income, predominantly low African American. And I'm wondering, where does that even come into consideration in this proposal? Or just in the way that CPS makes decisions, period. I think the other question that I have is, if this proposal is rooted in education and rooted in good thought, et cetera, then why the lies? You know, Janice Jackson was on radio just the other day saying that if you look at the gifted students and the non-gifted students, they don't get into the same schools. In other words, they don't get into the same high schools. Not one gifted student has even graduated from NTA yet, as we said before. It only goes up to 5th grade. So why lie? Why create the stories? She also said at a board meeting that the achievement of NTA is due to the achievements of the gifted students. We have proven and given the data time and time and time again to Alderman Dowell's office, to Janice Jackson, that the achievement of NTA is actually from the non-gifted students in the school, but you all keep perpetuating this story. And what's more concerning to me is, what are you saying to the students, and what about the immeasurable effects of these plans, not GPA, attendance, and so forth, the humiliation, the disempowerment, the devaluing their achievement. No one ever comes back and says, no, we were wrong. It actually is your achievement that raises the scores at the school. I know you're saying time, but I'm sorry, we have everything to lose, and I don't know, you can drag me from the mic. But what about the immeasurable effects? And if we don't get the answers to this tonight, because this is a forum with no answers, when do we get the answers? That's all I want to know.
My name is Chris Hacker, married to a second grade student at NTA. Happens to be in the RGC, but that's not, I'm not here about the RGC specifically. Last speaker, I forget your name, but you just asked at the beginning of yours, why are we here? Especially when it doesn't appear that we're being listened to. I'm here to bear witness. We see you. We're watching. Everybody, we're going to bring attention to this. We've been bringing attention to this. Now, I'm an engineer by training. I run a software company. I'm an attorney. The numbers on this thing just don't make sense. You said that the current population of high school students in the area, 2,000, and that nicely makes sense. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, so that's the first time I've heard those figures. Then we heard the other figures, that there's roughly 500 students per grade coming up in the boundary as defined. And if that's accurate, then half of those students who would be entitled to a seat won't be able to get one. Now, that's half of each grade, right? So the math doesn't work. I don't understand, the approach. I don't understand, again, as the last speaker said and others have said, the lies, the misstatements. I mean, it clearly the fix is in, and has been. You know, this is a political decision. This is not an educational decision. And again, we're watching. I'm a proud Chicagoan. I am not proud about this.
My name is Beth Van Opsel. I have given multiple speeches at these meetings before. I've tried to argue with facts. I'm a pediatrician. I tried to talk about how our kids who are African American do better than the kids at South Loop. I've tried to argue with lots of other facts, but no one listens. So let me tell you some things that I want to be on record. I have spent the last 6 months calling the entire phone list of NTA. Do you know I have not gotten one parent who supports this? Not one. I have gone knocking door to door at Long Grove Homes. Do you know that I did not get one parent that supports this? I want this on record. CPS, why aren't you knocking on doors? Why aren't you going to Hillard Homes, Long Grove Homes? Alderman Dowell, this is your ward. Why aren't you knocking on these doors? Then Brian, our community does not want this. The NTA community, people do not support this. I know this by calling, knocking on doors. I've gone to City Hall. I've taken the kids. Stop demeaning our kids. Our kids know what this proposal means. Yes. Don't tell them that they don't know. Yes. They know that if they're in 7th grade, they could go to this high school. They know that this is unjust. This is not an equitable plan. When I knock on these doors, when I talk to these families, this is what they're telling me. You know what? We got kicked out of South Loop 10, 13 years ago. I don't know how many it was. And nobody gave a crap. Yes. So why do we show up at these meetings? What's the point of it? That's how they feel. So it's not that we're a small group of people. We are not a small group of people that are opposed to this. People are tired of coming and giving their testimony and have it not count. But I want it on record that all the people I call and all the people I talk to don't support it. I also want it on record that I've been videotaping these, and they're going to be on wearenta.com. And I want you to see these stories. And I want to leave with one last story about a woman who didn't get to come and give her testimony. Her name is Miss Peaches, or she goes by that. And you'll see her videos out soon. And she has lived in Long Grove Homes for 20 years. And she takes the kids to school back and forth every day. And she says that not a single family there supports this proposal. And you can see her video coming up because my time is up. One last thing, 37th, and I know Bridgeport, 37th and South, those are $500,000 homes. This is much different than Long Grove. When you go to that house and that parent, that's a family that has 3 kids and 1 guardian that's supposed to take them from building to building with 3 schools.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, good evening. My name is Erica Clark. I'm with a group called Parents for Teachers. We are 100% behind the families, students, teachers, staff at NTA. We think what CPS is doing here is just wrong. I'm a former CPS parent. I have 2 kids who graduated from CPS, and I can tell you, CPS would have never attempted to do something like this to the schools that my children went to. And I think I would just like some honesty. You know, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. This is a racist school closing, no different than what they're trying to do in Inglewood. They're trying to dress it up. No different than what they did in 2013. Again, they're trying to dress it up, but it is the exact same situation where low-income black families are being shoved aside for bigger interests. And there's no reason to expect that the effects and the consequences will be any different than in 2013. Ask any family who went through that transition and had their kids go to those receiving schools. They are uniformly unhappy. That was a disaster, and this transition plan, sending the NTA kids over to South Loop, is going to be a disaster too. And not just for the NTA families, but for the families at South Loop. This will not work, because a school is more than a building. It's a community. It's a culture. These are real people's lives that you're messing with. And it just makes me wonder, you know, the one difference between 2013 and today is that NTA has met all the benchmarks. They're playing by all the rules. And they still are being sabotaged. And it just makes me wonder, what do low-income black families in this city have to do to get justice? What do they have to do to get up with the case? They are playing by all the rules, and you are still trying to destroy them. So we're behind you. We will do whatever we can, 100% to support you. And I really urge the people who are in favor of this plan, you cannot obtain a benefit for your family and your children at the expense of someone else's children. A harm to one child is a harm to all children. And we have to stop these Hunger Games and come together and demand what's right for all students and all families. Black, white, Asian, in Bridgeport, at NTA, in Inglewood. This has to stop.
My name is Chantel Boston, and I'm a parent of 3 children who attend NTA currently. NTA has not only been a great school for my kids to attend and receive a great education, but NTA has been a great support system to help single mothers like myself to keep pushing and have hope and faith in my kids when I have felt like giving up. The staff of NTA has been like family to me, and I would hate to see such a great school close. My question of the night is why? This proposal in question is a benefit to who? Well, it's a huge disadvantage and a huge inconvenience to my family and I, seeing that I am a single mother and I have 3 children who attend NTA. Why would you take something so great and tear it apart? Not only has the staff of NTA worked so hard to get where they are now, being a level 1+ school, but most importantly, the students. And this is their reward for all their hard work and effort. It's not right at all. What is this teaching our children? That no matter how hard they push to become great, someone will always be there to push you back down? Well, this is exactly what this proposal is teaching our kids. Well, to the kids and the staff of NTA, I speak for myself, and I'm sure I speak for the rest of our parents. We are here to teach our future generation, never back down without fighting for what you believe. Thank you.
I am a proud parent of my son at NTA. This is my first time speaking in this meeting. I've always sat on that back silently because I'm an immigrant to this country 11 years ago. I haven't gone to school in this country. But seeing all of this is really, really interesting for me. Just seeing, I was forced when I was 9 years old to go out of my school because of a war in my country. I'm from a country that most of you can't even pronounce it right. So seeing this that CPS has created feels the same. These neighborhoods that are all fighting for a high school or elementary is the same scene as a war without a bomb, without an atomic bomb. So it's the same thing. We're just making people fight over things that is unnecessary. NTA, Ms. Cassos and his fantastic team are a great example of making this school a great school. Why can't we do the same thing for the 2 high schools that are already there and spend the money that we want to turn NTA to another school, schools? This is a real example. We're not talking about assumptions. It's fact. It's right there. Everyone can go and visit it every day. They're doing a great, fantastic job. I don't have a family in Chicago, but this community is my family. So you're destroying that family.
How you doing? My name is Clyde Cooper. I have 2 sons at NTA, one in kindergarten, one in 1st grade. I also have a brother that graduated from NTA. His name is Malcolm Green. Now he's on his way to Harvard. So when you talk about school, We talking about NTA as being that foundation. That was his foundation. Now he's building his house. Yeah, he went to a selective enrollment high school, but he went to NTA first. So NTA laid that foundation, and now he's going to build that house and go to Harvard and put that roof on his house. So without NTA as that foundation, he wouldn't be able to do that. And now I have two younger sons, his younger nephews, that want to follow in his footsteps and do those same exact things. If we cut them off at the legs at kindergarten and first grade, how are they going to be able to succeed? They're not going to be able to accomplish the same things that he accomplished? No, they will, because they're going to work hard, but they want to still be able to see the same teachers that he had, do the things that he did at the same place. They don't want to do it differently. That's why we came to NTA. I could have sent my kids anywhere in the city to go to school, but we chose NTA because it's a family and something that we do and we love. So let's keep this school open for everybody else.
Hi, I'm Latasha Watkins. I have a child at NTA. Hopefully we'll have two more there in the coming years. I'm tired. I am so tired of this process. As a resident of Chicago who pays my fair share of taxes too, I'm tired of fighting for my child to be in a school that is a good school and that he deserves to be in, and the school that I chose. I don't want my child in Southwood. It is not the environment that I wanted, which is why I chose NTA, which is performing well. And you wonder why, Chip, we are boisterous and upset and responding, because we're tired. Every time we come here, we express how we feel. We have brought you facts. We have brought you information about the negative outcomes of the students. We have talked about, in general, how white students get more than black students. We have brought everything we could bring. And it still feels like you're not listening to us. It still feels like this plan, we're going to push this plan no matter what the community says. We'll hold our 3 meetings to make sure we check that box. But I'm tired, and I know the other parents are tired. And I understand why the parents in Long Grove and Hillers don't show up. This has just been going on since, what, March for me, and I'm as tired as I am. So, CPS, I need to ask you, where are the facts that you need to bring to us? If you are proposing to make a change to a school, I believe that your motto should be first, do no harm to those students. Where is the data that says that this is going to result in better outcomes? Integration is not the goal. Integration is not the outcome. Where is the academic evidence based upon studies and information that should already exist about how these students are going to fare better? And if they are not, then why are we following this plan and why are we pushing it? Alderman Dowell, I would expect your support to make sure that these students are well taken care of. I heard you on time. But one thing I want to make sure that everybody else here knows, we're all here talking about this because nobody is getting what they want with this plan. You're not getting a high school to accommodate enough students. And then we're taking one from other students. Nobody is getting what they want. We deserve that, and we deserve much better. So push for that.
I'm a little shorter than Natasha. My name is Nikita Brar. I am the Executive Director of Chicago United for Equity. I'm excited to be here today to hear all of your voices. And there are 2 central questions that we have been raising in a racial equity assessment. First of all, a racial equity assessment is, let's take a look at the plan. Let's ask ourselves 2 questions. Who gets the benefit? Who bears the burden? And if the burdens are borne by the same people that have borne burdens by Chicago's planning in the past, the same families who have been burdened in the past, the same racial groups, Black and Latino families predominantly in Chicago, who have borne the burdens of racist policies, then we have to say to ourselves, that's not right. Now, I hear that there are families here who have come forward who didn't know about this plan before today, and they're just interested in a high school. And I would say to you, it's okay for you to have an intention for something good for your child. Everybody has that. But what I would say to you also is now that you know that it does something where it puts a burden on black families in Chicago, low-income black families in Chicago, you have to ask yourself a question. Does your intention to have something for your child come before your intention to be anti-racist? Anti-racist is different than not being a racist. Not being a racist means I'm not going to actively do something against black people, people of different races. Being anti-racist means that when I see something that's going on that is disproportionately burdening people of color, that I'm going to stand up and I'm going to speak loud and I'm going to speak the truth. And the truth of this situation is that we've brought in people from all across the city of Chicago who have no interest in this matter. 76 fellows who we trained in this methodology. Alderman Dowell, they are some of the folks that you've worked with from academic institutions all over the city, who are people that have worked with CPS and done some of your consulting work in the past. These are people who have come forward with no self-interest, and they have found that this plan is racially unjust. And so what I invite you to do now is to join us at the very last meeting of that racial equity assessment. It is Thursday, this Thursday, 2 days from now, 5:30 at National Teachers Academy, 5:30 to 8 p.m. And the point of that meeting is to say, look, we all want something out of this plan. This plan is not serving people equitably, so how do we fix it? We know that the collective intelligence in this room can come up with something better. Chinatown, Bridgeport, NTA South Loop, you can all come forward and devise something that works better for all of us.
Hello, my name is Paul Kent. I'm representing Rush University Medical Center. I am not an interested party, so it cannot be looked at as someone self-serving. Me and my partner, Dr. Ansel, study health equity and social justice. I asked my medical students who I teach, what do you think the biggest risk to your health is in America? Most of them say diabetes, smoking, family history, things like that. It's not even close. What do you think the biggest risk to your health in America is? Racism. Poverty. Poverty and education. Now, I have many foster children through the years, and 3 of which I've adopted, who struggled, had been exposed to drugs. I have a child who was HIV positive, all of them are doing great now. Why do you think they're doing great now? Because I'm white and they go to good schools. That's why. It isn't. They had opportunity that these children do not have. I also recruit for Harvard. My kids have that chance. Not because of their background, but because of the opportunity, simply because of where I live in River Forest. These people, this school, these kids have those opportunities, and that's being taken away. There should be shame in the room and the people who are doing this. I heard about this just yesterday. And I want you to know that people who study social justice and health equity, scientists such as myself, my degree is in mathematics from Harvard, we're going to look at your data. And I have no doubt what we're going to see is this is direct institutional racism directly at this point.
It's me and back again. I just wanted to get one thing on the record that has not been said yet, and I think it's important to say. I know that no one from the South Loop community has come up and spoken in favor of this plan, but I'm sure there are people there in the audience thinking, well, my school's going to be fine, my school's going to be fine. No, it's not going to be fine. What has not been put up there, which we cannot forget, is that in conjunction with this plan of destroying NTA, we are also talking about destroying South Loop Elementary. How are we destroying it? We are destroying it by turning it into a Franken school. We are talking about taking 3 buildings, 1212 South Plymouth, the new building at 16th and Dearborn, and the preschool annex on Archer and Clark, and calling all of that South Loop Elementary. There will be almost 2,000 students spread out among 3 buildings that stretch all the way from 12th to 16th to a little bit west on Archer and Cermak. I want you to think about that for a moment. Many of you, like I, have more than one child. All of these schools will have the exact same start time.
Have you seen the traffic around 1212 South Plymouth alone? Have you ever tried to go to Mariano's or drop your kid off at Daystar or at any time of the day? Yes. It is a nightmare. And what we are now talking about is trying to get 2,000 children into 3 buildings and give them a great education with one administration. There is no data that supports this being a quality option. Smaller schools are better. Contiguous schools where all children from K to 8th grade in the same building learn from each other. This is what makes a great school. And I guarantee you that if this horrible plan comes to life, and all of us at NTA are forced to join this Franken school, that level 1+ rating is gone. So I just want you to think about this. Even if you're for NTA as a high school, what you are now for is for your Franken school to drop in its rating and for your children to lose out on their education.
Chip, thank you for offering for us to get another card. I think that I just also wanted to go on record with the question of where this plan originated. Because with the guidelines that were issued from CPS for school actions, it said that a community member or community members can request that a school action be made. But what has never been made clear for this particular plan is where this originated from. As far as NTA families can tell, the only record of where this plan was originated was the email that we did see from Alderman Pat Dowell that talked about a meeting with Mayor Ron Emanuel and a meeting with Tina from Prairie District Neighborhood Alliance. And let's just be clear, none of those people on that email are community members of either schools. And it is important, I know we talked about being respectful to Tina when she was up here, and I hate to name names, but when you are a real estate agent who stands to gain from this and you have nothing to lose, of course you're going to stand here in support of it. And that's not where the community initiative should come from. That's called a conflict of interest, just so we're clear. And I want to go on record as asking CPS, where did this plan originate from? If this is your requirement for a school action, where are you documenting where this plan originated from? And you can show all of us. Yes. Since we've been called conspiracy theorists for saying that this plan came from the mayor. I was called conspiracy theorist myself from Frank Clark or whatever. On the PDNA website, again, the same organization that Tina represents, I once saw a comment that said, with NTA being 80% low income, is it any wonder why we don't send our children there? So I want you to think about that again for a second. If anybody needs a screenshot, I have it. With 80% low income, that's the reason they're not sending their children there, and that was the impetus for this plan. And if you are standing with this plan, know that you are standing with that mindset. And I just want to also mention, through this process, we realized that the NTA, the story of NTA, the sad story of what has been going on in this community for so many years has already been written up in 2 books. And I talked to a person who's writing a 3rd book on this very topic. And I just want for everybody to think to themselves, when this is documented, like the researcher said earlier, we are looking at your data, your research, your numbers. Are you showing your children that you are standing on the right side of history? When this is documented, how will you explain the stance that you took and what you stole from another community that was already vulnerable? How will you explain that to them? And by the way, the lady who said, we don't have a high school, Phillips is level 2, would you send your child there? I want to also go on record that I came to NTA when it was, you're right, not a level 2 school, it was a level 3. Yeah. Level 3. Because I understood what was happening at that school, and I saw it before it happened. And we are blessed and proud to be a part of the NTA community, and we don't have any intentions of letting you take it away. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Layla Walker, and I go to Southwood Elementary School. I'm in the 3rd grade, and I just wanted to say that I think that my school shouldn't be trying to shut down any other school. And also should be trying to shut down any other school, and I just wanted to apologize for what my school was trying to do. And if I had known, because because I just learned that today. But if I had known, I probably would have tried to do something about it.
This is our last speaker.
Get him, Layla.
I want to say a few more things since NCA parents just get 2 minutes time all the time. So I want to finish a couple statements. One, I want to give a statement on behalf of a third grader, because I don't think this has been in the record yet. When I was at Long Grove Homes, one of the main concerns of the families there is this. And this follows up on Elizabeth's complaint, but her name is Zakaya. Her dad's name is Maurice. There's 3 kids in the family, a 1-year-old, a 3rd grader, and a 5th grader. So under the new proposal, their grandpa walks them to school every day. These kids are going to be at different schools, and that is a major concern of the communities where there's a lot of grandparents or people like Miss Peaches who walks these kids to school, is that how logistically are they going to walk them? And it's more than just about travel. This little girl, only in 5th grade, was worried about what's going to happen to my baby brother or sister that I can't look out for. So to go back to my point, Bridgeport people, I hear you that you want a high school, but it is different to live in $500,000, $600,000 homes than to live in Long Grove and to have your grandparent have to be transporting you to 3 different schools. So I think about what side you're going to stand on and stand on the right side of justice when you're thinking about these things. It's easy for us to say, I'm not a racist, but maybe we should all take a look at ourselves and think, maybe there's a little part of me that's racist, or a big part of me that's racist, and do something about that. My other thing to think about is this. If this is engaging all the community, all of you elected officials need to keep your elected official pages open for public comment.
We'd like to thank everybody tonight for your comments. I do want to share with you who's in the room so that if you have any questions for them. From Office of Diverse Learning and Supports and Services, ODLSS, Shania Boone and Luis Rodriguez, would you please stand just so that they know that who you are in the rear if you have any questions. For students in temporary living situations, Anshel Blackman, and there she is in the back there, and then from the talent office, Tiffany Taylor. They will be at the back table if you have any specific questions for them. And I'd also like to make you aware that our next community meeting will be held next Tuesday, January 16th at the Second Presbyterian Church, 1936 South Michigan, from 6 to 8 o'clock p.m. We will see you then. Thank you all for being respectful, and thank you all for coming. Be safe going home.